From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Tennessee public schools may be closed for the summer or out for the summer, but the political fight over education in Tennessee and here in Nashville continues to escalate. We'll talk about a myriad of topics and issues that have come up surrounding this matter. And our guests today, as we welcome first, that right next to me, Joey Garrison, education writer for the Tennessean, and Andrew Zielinski from Nashville Post, Nashville Scene, also writes on education. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thanks, Matt.
Now, the biggest controversy around here in recent weeks has been that the State Department of Education couldn't get the standardized TCAP scores done in time, at least for the grades 3 through 8, so they could be included in final report cards. There were calls for legal opinions. There were calls for investigations by the state comptroller about the delay, what happened, why it happened, and what education officials knew and when they knew it. So it's gotten real quiet now, Joey. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the last few developments was a pair of Republican lawmakers asking for an investigation from the comptrollers. We're still waiting to see whether there's any movement on that. There's also folks who have questioned whether Commissioner Huffman even had the legal authority in waiving that statute. And there's sort of basically there was a law passed this past year that the Department of Education says gave him that authority, but there's still a lot of chatter whether it does say that. So I think that's something that we're sort of looking at right now.
Andrew, with Commissioner Huffman, it goes beyond just what authority he had. There's some people saying he needs to be out, he needs to resign. Now, this is not the first time he's had controversy around him. Is he going to survive this time?
You know, that's an interesting question. I mean, we're at the end of the governor's term, and traditionally, and if the governor, it looks likely he'll be reelected, that'd be a really good time to clean house, maybe replace a couple folks, or some folks say, okay, they're going to go somewhere else. So far, the commissioner hasn't given any signs that that's something he's looking to do, but with a lot of frustration from various levels of parents and teachers to legislators who have a little bit of a louder voice with the governor, it's yet to be seen.
Now, Joey, there were first indications from state officials it was going to take them 10 days to get these test scores out. Now, this was right around Memorial Day, but suddenly, the Friday afternoon of Memorial Day, they've got the test scores ready. What happened there?
Yeah, basically they just said that they had, I think they called them external experts who were able to complete this process faster than they thought. Again, the whole at issue here was this process called post-equating, in which it's sort of a statistical analysis of previous tests, making sure there weren't any outliers, that kind of thing. And usually they wait till after the release of what's called these quick scores. This year they did it before it. They say it's because of some changes that they did related to Common Core. And so they really haven't explained, why all of a sudden, it would be done a week faster than originally anticipated. That's what some of the confusion out there still.
Now, Andrea, the week that story broke, we had Steve Gills, conservative commentator here on this show, and he made a big deal, thought this was an effort to they were bad test scores, they were trying to cook the scores, make them look better. What have you found? Is there any truth to that?
Well, I've heard anecdotally that there are a lot of folks out there who aren't happy with this year's test scores. Now, whether that is more isolated in individual schools or whether that's statewide is yet to be seen. The state won't release their statewide scores until July at the earliest. So, you have other states that have had issues in the past with questionable tests. So I think that's kind of risen where it's something on a lot of people's radar. But so far, there's no indication that's happened.
And Joe, your paper's written an editorial that basically says it was just a screw up. It was not a conspiracy.
Yeah, they might have written that, and I think we still have to wait and look at what kind of as the story unfolds. Now, I will say, I mean, these scores, just because they weren't ready to go on report cards, they still exist for accountability purposes. They're still gonna, even if they were bad scores, they're still going to be out there. And compared, we're going to compare district to district. They're going to be used for the component of teacher evaluations. So basically, this just the tardiness of them just prevented them from accounting for 15 to 25% of the letter grade that a student gets on his.
But Andrew, that's a lot for some people. I mean, there are some parents and kids out there trying to figure out, well, should I have gone to summer school? Do I need to go to summer school? I mean, this is not a nothing. This is not just a make good, right?
Right. I mean, because essentially all these school districts had asked for a waiver to not have to, because of the delay, to not have to input those scores in there. So yeah, there have a lot of students who, might have been on the cusp of one grade or another, or of going to summer school or not. So yeah, I mean, it has an impact, but it was up to every district to decide whether or not they wanted to waive that or they wanted to come back and add those in.
And most of them waived it, right, Joey?
Yeah, I think it was about 103 was the last count I got. That could have fluctuated a little bit here and there.
So what does this do to the credibility of the TCAP test now? I mean, it either counts for something or it doesn't count for something, and you don't know until, I guess, the scores come out.
The reason this was a big deal was because it's coming at a time when we're relying on tests for more and more decisions, and parents are noticing that. And I think we're wondering, well, I mean, if the state can't release these scores on time, why should we put so much faith into this kind of process? And I think that's why it sort of hurt the administration, hurt the Department of Education, and that's, I think, where a lot of critics have taken aim.
Now, Andrea, when this first came up, they were going to delay the scores. There was some talk about this had some relationship with meshing it with the new Common Core curriculum. Now, Common Core doesn't need anything else to be controversial in the state. It's got plenty of that. But that seemed to have faded away. What was this all about with Common Core?
The Common Core debate was very multifaceted, but this year it boiled down to there are arguments that Common Core is nationalizing education and just putting a lot more pressure on students. So you had folks on both the left and right very frustrated with that. But where this all comes with testing is the legislature decided, well, we don't want to take the Common Core aligned test, which is PARC, and put that out for they would rather the state bid out for another contractor.
Is that in the process of being done during this 1 year delay?
An RFP, so a request for proposals. The state hasn't asked for proposals yet, but of the tests that are aligned to Common Core, there aren't very many anyway, so the state could end up with PARC in the end.
There was also some talk in the legislature of doing something much more than just a 1 year delay. There was talk, Joey, I think, of even getting rid of Common Core if they could have done it. And they passed a bill in the House that was much more severe, and that was on the cusp of passing in the Senate. Is that likely to happen again?
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that was a statement on Huffman and some of his reform agendas that the reform agenda he's pushed. Ultimately, I think there was a compromise reached that really didn't appease a lot of the critics of Common Core from both sides. As Andrea mentioned, there will be a delay of PARC for a year. There's a good chance it goes back to PARC. If not PARC, it's going to be there's really only about 3 other assessments that it could possibly be. There's not a whole lot of test makers out there that do this kind of thing, and so really, and I think lost in all this debate is the fact that we have been implementing in these Common Core standards for about 3 years. The standards that we teach in the classroom. And though there were attempts to roll that back completely, those didn't ultimately go anywhere in the full General Assembly.
We're talking education issues here on Inside Politics with Andrea Zielinski of the Nashville Scene, Nashville Post, and Joey Garrison of the Tennessean. Back to continue our conversation after this break.